On the day the Titan submersible, operated by the American company OceanGate, vanished into the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, the world fell silent. Not the ordinary kind of silence, but a heavy one, rising from nearly 4,000 meters below the surface, in the same dark waters where the most famous shipwreck in history rests, the Titanic. The mission seemed simple: descend, observe, return. But the ocean had other plans. On board were 5 passengers, including wealthy businessmen and seasoned explorers, individuals who paid extraordinary sums for a once-in-a-lifetime journey to the Titanic. None of them would ever resurface. Hours later, the official explanation arrived. The submersible had imploded under extreme pressure. Case closed. Cause identified. Story finished. Or so the public was told. 1 year after the tragedy, a newly discovered piece of debris was located near the original search zone. A fragment that did not appear in the initial reports, was never shown during press briefings, and remained absent from public disclosures for months. According to sources connected to the investigation, this object should not be there. Its discovery reignited uncomfortable questions many experts had avoided addressing openly. What if the Titan did not fail solely due to structural weakness? Acoustic data captured deep beneath the ocean surface reportedly recorded sounds that do not perfectly match a standard implosion profile. At the same time, internal sensor logs from the submersible allegedly showed irregular readings moments before communication was lost. Those details were never fully released. Even more unsettling is where the debris was found. The location lies close to a rarely explored section of the Titanic wreck, surrounded by massive metal structures, unstable debris fields, and zones where previous expeditions reported unusual equipment interference. Coincidence? Or did something unexpected occur during the descent? While the public believed the tragedy had been fully explained, independent analysts began examining another possibility. The Titan may have been affected by an external factor, something never accounted for in the mission's risk models. If confirmed, this would go far beyond a simple engineering failure. It would point toward dangerous decisions, withheld information, and perhaps a detail capable of shattering the official narrative entirely. In the next part, we will examine what the sensors truly recorded, what was heard before the final silence, and why certain data never reached the public. Because in the deep ocean, some secrets refuse to stay buried. In the hours following the disappearance of the Titan submersible, officials assured the public that all systems had failed instantly. According to the official timeline, the implosion was sudden, violent, and left no time for reaction. But internal records suggest a far more disturbing sequence of events. Before communication was lost, the Titan's onboard monitoring systems reportedly transmitted irregular pressure fluctuations, not a rapid collapse, but progressive anomalies. Sensors designed to detect hull stress began showing nonlinear readings, patterns that engineers later described as highly unusual for a standard implosion scenario. Even more unsettling were the audio signals captured by deep-sea hydrophones in the area. Instead of a single, sharp acoustic signature, the kind expected from a catastrophic structural failure, analysts detected a sequence of sounds, spaced seconds apart. Low-frequency pulses. Metallic reverberations. And then, silence. This raises a terrifying question. What if the Titan didn't fail all at once? Several specialists involved in previous deep-sea missions have stated, anonymously, that the sound profile resembles external contact or impact, followed by a delayed collapse. Yet this interpretation never reached the press. Why? At the same time, recovered fragments from the seabed revealed deformation patterns inconsistent with pure inward pressure. Certain components appeared twisted laterally, as if subjected to force from multiple directions. Then came the discovery that reignited the investigation. A newly located piece of wreckage, found nearly a year later, was identified as part of an external structural assembly, showing abrasion marks and fractures that could not be easily explained by implosion physics alone. The fragment was catalogued quietly. No announcement. No press release. Its existence became known only after leaked documentation surfaced, triggering renewed scrutiny from independent researchers and former naval engineers. Another detail began to circulate among specialists. During the Titan's descent, navigation systems experienced brief disorientation, a phenomenon previously reported by crews operating near dense wreckage zones around the Titanic. Some describe these areas as acoustic traps, regions where sound waves, pressure, and metal structures interact unpredictably. Others go further. They suggest that the Titanic wreck itself may pose dangers still poorly understood, especially to experimental submersibles operating near its most unstable sections. If true, the Titan may not have simply imploded. It may have been compromised first. And if warnings existed, why were passengers still allowed on board? In Part 3, we will uncover what OceanGate executives knew, the internal concerns raised before the expedition, and why some experts believe this tragedy was not an accident, but a calculated risk that went too far. Because the deeper you go, the harder it becomes to hide the truth. Long before the Titan ever touched the cold darkness of the Atlantic, warnings were already piling up. Internal emails, technical reports, and testimony from former OceanGate employees paint a picture far different from the confident image presented to the public. Engineers repeatedly questioned the experimental carbon fiber hull, a material never before used at such extreme depths for repeated dives. One message, later leaked, was chillingly direct. This design is pushing limits we don't fully understand. Another warned that fatigue from previous dives could cause microfractures, invisible to the naked eye, but deadly under immense pressure. These concerns were not theoretical. Carbon fiber behaves differently from steel or titanium. Instead of bending or deforming gradually, it can fail without warning, storing stress until a sudden release. Several engineers urged OceanGate to conduct independent testing and slow down operations. Those voices were removed. Some employees were dismissed. Others resigned. A former contractor later stated that safety concerns were framed as obstacles to innovation. The company's leadership believed regulations were outdated, that progress required breaking rules, not following them. But the risks didn't stop at the hull. Documents reveal that the Titan experienced multiple communication dropouts, navigation glitches, and sensor malfunctions on previous expeditions. Each incident was documented. Each time, missions continued. Then came the pressure cycles. Experts now believe the Titan may have undergone more stress cycles than its design safely allowed. Every descent to the Titanic added microscopic damage that could not be fully detected by the monitoring systems in place. By the time of its final dive, the submersible may have already been structurally compromised. And yet, 5 people still entered the capsule. Among them were individuals with immense influence, explorers, billionaires, and pioneers who trusted the technology and the vision behind it. Trust that may have been misplaced. What makes this tragedy even darker is the growing belief among specialists that the final dive was not routine. Some data suggests the Titan descended closer to unstable debris fields than planned, areas littered with twisted steel, cables, and collapsing sections of the Titanic itself. If the hull was already weakened, even minor external contact could have accelerated failure. And that brings us back to the newly discovered wreckage. If an impact occurred, if warnings were known, if risks were calculated and accepted, then the narrative of a sudden, unavoidable implosion begins to crumble. In Part 4, we will confront the most disturbing questions of all. What truly caused the Titan's destruction? Why was the new debris kept quiet? And could this tragedy have been prevented? Because sometimes, the most dangerous pressure isn't in the ocean. It's at the top. For nearly a year, the official explanation remained simple. A sudden implosion caused by extreme pressure. Clean. Fast. Final. But the ocean, as always, kept more to itself. Recently, during a classified deep-sea survey unrelated to OceanGate, a new debris field was detected several hundred meters from the original Titan implosion zone. At first glance, it appeared insignificant: twisted fragments, irregular shapes, and metallic shadows half buried in sediment. But when analysts overlaid the coordinates with past dive paths, something unsettling emerged. The debris did not match the expected implosion scatter pattern. Instead of a tight, centralized collapse, typical of instantaneous pressure failure, the fragments were elongated, directional, suggesting movement before destruction. Even more disturbing was what the debris was made of. Among the newly identified fragments were pieces not officially listed as part of Titan's primary structure, components resembling external stabilization elements, possibly part of a temporary modification or last-minute reinforcement. Why were these parts never mentioned? Then came the sonar anomalies. Archived acoustic data, re-examined months after the incident, revealed multiple sharp sound spikes, not one. A sequence. Seconds apart. This pattern is inconsistent with a single catastrophic implosion. Some experts now believe the Titan may have experienced a progressive structural failure, a partial collapse, followed by a brief loss of integrity, and only then a final implosion. If true, it means the crew may have had seconds of awareness. Seconds to realize something was wrong. Seconds in total darkness. Seconds under crushing pressure. And that possibility changes everything. Why was this theory never shared publicly? Investigative journalists attempting to access the new findings report delays, redactions, and silence. Requests are redirected. Sources go quiet. Officials repeat the same phrase: no new conclusions have been reached. But conclusions don't need to be official to be real. The truth may be far more uncomfortable than a simple accident. Because if this disaster resulted from ignored warnings, experimental risks, undocumented modifications, and suppressed data, then the Titan tragedy isn't just a maritime accident. It's a case study in what happens when ambition outruns accountability. 5 lives were lost in the pursuit of exploration. But the ocean didn't demand that price. People did. And now, somewhere beneath the Atlantic, alongside the Titanic itself, lies another modern wreck, not just of a vessel, but of decisions that can never be undone. If this story made you question what you've been told, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Because the deepest truths aren't always buried in the ocean. Sometimes, they're buried in silence. If you want to keep uncovering stories the ocean never meant to reveal, subscribe to the channel.